Welcome back to the garage. I'm on location again at Cartwright because my boss has very kindly granted me access to the workshop so that I can put the new set of wheels on with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres. So we're going to try those. I want to try those on the road anyway because the tyres that we've got on at the minute, I think a few of them are sort of mismatched and it tramlines a bit, and I can put some of that down to the fact that the chassis is all polybushed and everything, so I'd just be interested to know what sort of difference that makes when I switch them over. And I'll also go through really sort of a briefing as to why I chose the Pilot Sport 4 tyres. So we'll do that. Also, we've got the cold air piping to fit after we've done some fettling to the fog light shroud housing to make the inlet work with the SE bumper, because traditionally they're built for they're designed for the M Sport bumper. So we did some fettling and we're going to fit that as well. So yeah, I guess let's unload the car and get to it. First one on. I just thought I'd pause here for a minute just to show you. So if you don't know already, on the E46 they come with wheel bolts, so 5 bolts like this, which is fine, but I'd much rather have a stud and nut conversion on this car. So you get some cars that have wheel studs that are directly fixed into the hub, so it just means that you can present the wheel a lot easier and hang it on the studs, so it's already sort of set essentially, and you just do the nuts up. Whereas with this one, you've got to sort of line it up, hold it steady, because there's only a very sort of really like a very small little lip of the hub that the wheel will sort of line up on it. It won't really hang by itself on that. So it essentially just makes changing wheels a lot easier with a stud and nut conversion. Something that it isn't very expensive for what it is, but again, with this car at the minute, we're budget conscious and every penny counts. So that's sort of a privilege that we'll just have to put on the back burner for a moment. And also I'm going to change the centre caps because these are what came off the new set of wheels. Disgusting. So the ones that came off the original wheels are fine. So I'm going to put those on. Anyway, let's crack on. So that's that wheel on. This really doesn't take very long to do, but I'm just sort of stopping and starting every now and then, just I suppose just to give a little bit of feedback and input. So obviously if you haven't done this sort of thing before, it's very easy to do, but you don't want to gun the wheel bolts all the way up. So I'm fortunate enough to have the tools to be able to do everything. So what I do is put all the wheel bolts in, sort of finger tight, gun them up, opposing nuts, and that sort of formation, opposing nuts, just gun them up till they click gently, and then what I'll do is when I drop the car, I'll go around with a torque wrench and torque them all up. You really don't want to sort of weld the wheel nuts on with the gun, otherwise there will be a sod to come off and it does cause problems. So yeah, easy does it. Easy job though. Now essentially, because I've been a bit lazy, I've sort of sold myself short here. I'm using the 4-poster ramp when the workshop's completely free, and it's got two 2-poster ramps in it, so I'm having to raise the ramp now, so up you go, so that I can move the centre jack from the front to the back. Plonker. Probably better move this as well. God. That's the first thing you should do in the morning before you attempt to do this. Turn your brain on. safety first, is these. So if we're doing it on the ramp like this, you need to put, because it's a rear wheel drive car, so the handbrake isn't going to stop the front wheels from rolling, the gearbox isn't going to stop the front wheels from rolling, so you need to put the chocks on. Otherwise we will have a situation. Obviously it's key when you're doing a job like this. I don't teach people to suck eggs. I'm not a mechanical technician by any means, but some useful tips are prep yourself, make sure you've got all the tools and bits that you need to do the job and the facilities before you start it, and any sort of tools you can get to help you, such as this bad boy, this gun here, really sort of speeds things up. Obviously you can do it by hand, the old-fashioned way with a bar, but this just makes it a lot quicker, and I'm lucky to have this sort of facility. If you are using the ramp like this, the one thing I would say is you've got to make sure that if it's your first time using it, someone that knows what they're doing, showing you how to use it properly, so that you lock it down on the pins essentially. So you'll hear it, I don't know if there's any of that in the video, but you'll hear it sort of clang when it's moving up and down, and that is where it's going to the point where the pins are engaging, so if anything happens, if the hydraulics or anything fail, the pins are locked in so the ramp won't collapse to the floor. And car obviously get their ramps checked sort of very regularly. I see the bills, so I know it's very regular, so everything's up to specs in here. Anyway, let's do the next wheel. So we're done there, just got to lower the ramp down and torque them up. And I'll show you something in a minute. It's a good thing we changed those tyres. Down you come, chubby. So the torque wrench, we're going to make that set to the right force, which it is. Whatever car you're doing, just check your force. You better check that on the, I've checked it on the computer inside, but you better check it on the internet, and yeah, torque away essentially. Till it clicks, and you're done. Right folks, so there we have it. That's the tyres done, wheels changed over. So they certainly look better than the Falcons that were on there before. I was mistaken, they are all matching, they're all Falcons. But as I said, I'm really glad we changed these today, because one of the tyres, I'll pull the video up now, has acquired a screw, which is not ideal. I think it's pluggable, so I should be able to just do a puncture repair on that. I'll get the guys to check that on Monday, tomorrow, to see if that can be done. But that would have caused me an absolute headache had that screw come out on the way back to the unit, because I've got no tools in the car to change a wheel on the side of the road, no jack, no tools. So I'd have been stuck there with a flat tyre in this awful winter weather, seeing as it's mid-December and nearly Christmas. So I'm glad we got that done today. Anyway, what we'll do now, I'll get the car back in the air, get the inlet pipe on for the cold air feed to the ram air induction kit, and then we'll take the car for a spin and see if both those things combined have made much difference. Right folks, so here we have the piping for the optional cold air feed from the fog light. So we had to do some fettling, as I said. We had to grind off the inside of the inlet pipe here. So this is the inlet funnel that's supplied with the ram air kit. We had to grind off the inside of the original factory inlet from the fog light grille, because I think it's designed for an M Sport bumper, and these are different. So we just cut the inside of it out, and then we bonded the the ram air inlet on. So that's nice and sturdy now, and this should fix to the back of it. And then there's no brackets, so we're going to improvise a little bit. I assume it comes up from through this hole here. It cable ties on, and that's about your lot, I reckon. So shouldn't take long. Fingers crossed. Let's give it a go. So just looking at it, I'm going to guess and suggest it's much easier to do obviously from the bottom, because I don't think you need to fettle much from the top. So I'm going to put the car in the air now, and we're going to have a look, and we're going to let the dog see the rabbit, as it were. Do you know what? I've absolutely scrapped that whole idea. So I said before, when you're doing the tyres, prepare and make it as easy for yourself as possible. So the easiest thing to do, I thought it was just going to slip on nicely like a cable tie up, but it wasn't. So what I've done is pop the fog light housing out. You can see there, look, what we did was grind it flat. So cut the original one off, slide the ram air inlet on, and then mastic it in so that it's solid. So what I'll do now is just feed the pipe through, fix it on as well as I can, then use a cable tie to hold it. So that should be it. Let's do it now. Let me get some cable ties. Right, okay, so after ages of fettling and trying to ring 4 technicians on a Sunday, one of them answered the phone and told me where the cable ties are. So, this is what we're going to do. This is the easiest thing to do, definitely, I think. So, let's have the pipe there. We want to make sure that we get a nice, good seal. Stretch him over. Just check that's sealed all the way around. Perfect, that looks good. Right, and then we'll cable tie the she-beast on. The cable ties do come with the kit, but because I'm super smart, I've left them down the workshop, haven't I? Left them down the unit, indeed. So just make sure the tabs are out of the way. Just feeling there, it's going to have to go right up the top there. That should do it. Fine. Stiff, crikey. Perfect. Right, that looks good to me. Let's feed that back in and clip the old bad boy back in there. That way round, isn't it? Yeah. He says. Yes, that is right. There we go. Lovely. Right. So it's got to go back up in the air now so we can feed it through to the top. Right, so as I said before, there's no real bracketry or anything, so it's just a case of manipulating it to go where we want it to go. And it looks like, if you see, get out of the way, there's a little gap there. You see the sunshine? We're going to go for that gap there. So should be able to access that from the top now. So what I'm going to do is, if I take 2 cable ties, if we get one around it, I just don't want it poking into the filter because that's what it's doing. If we get one around it, that's around it like this. Before we tighten that too much, if we get another one around it like this, just place that there gently a minute. And then what we'll do, if we fix that one around here, because that's the height I want it at there, but I want it here. Like that. Then that should stick like that. Just trim those down a minute. Worst case, I can undo it if I don't like it, but I think that's going to work. So that's fixed to that wiring set there. And oh, let's just tuck that out of the way for a minute because I can't get the bloody clippers on it now. And then that shouldn't be poking and prodding around. It's not cutting into the filter at the bottom. It's just giving us some cold air. That should do it. By all means, if there's a better way to do that in the comments, let me know. But I think that works for what I want it to work for a minute. What I've noticed as well, my standard intake's missing. So I don't know where that's gone. But yeah, that is missing. There is usually a feed there from the standard airbox, which I had the other day, onto the pipe nicely. So I wonder if it's been taken out when we've put the new expansion tank on and just not put it back on. So I'll have to go down the unit and find that, but we need that as well. Right, I think what we'll do is give the car a quick start and just make sure everything's A-OK. Right then, so I think that's enough work for the day. We're all done there and I'm really happy about that. I want to get the car on the road now to see what difference that's all made and just make sure the car drives straight and true and the tyres hold pressure and so on and so forth. But I wanted to cover really quickly why we chose the Michelin Pilot Sport 4, because if I do it while I'm driving along, the fact the car's all stripped out and there's no soundproofing in it, the noise off the road where it's been raining is just going to be too much. I think it'll disrupt the video. So I'll cover it really quickly now. So the backstory was we want to run a dry tyre and a wet tyre. We know what dry tyre we want to use, but the wet tyre was where we were in conversations about what to run. Now on the MG, we use a Uniroyal Rain Sport tyre, which is ever so good in the wet, but it's ever so good in the wet. So the track has to be really, really wet. It's great for clearing standing water, but as the track starts to dry, and when you get that transition between sort of like a wet track and a dry track, that awkward, like sort of damp, slippy phase in the middle, the Uniroyals don't hold up very well. They overheat very, very quickly. And of course the semi-slicks, they just don't hold enough traction. So I wanted a tyre that could sort of fulfill that void, essentially. Now, there's plenty of tyres out there to choose that will do that just fine, but again, this is a budget-conscious build. We had to be sensible and consider that as a priority, or one of the top priorities, alongside the performance, of course. So the Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyre was something that was recommended to me, so I started doing some research on it, and it actually turns out the tyre seems very, very good. It is predominantly a road tyre, of course. It's a summer tyre, but it's going to perform a lot better than a semi-slick in damp and wet conditions. And reading the reviews online and looking at the tyre tests that have been carried out, the Michelin Pilot Sport 4 is almost on par with the Pilot Sport 4S in the wet. The PS4S is quicker in the dry, granted, but when it's dry we don't care because we've got semi-slicks. But for the wet performance, the PS4 is equally as good. And in fact, one of the reviews I watched, I think it was tyrereview.co.uk, they're really, really good at this sort of thing, pitched the PS4 against the PS4S and the Cup 2, and in the wet, the Cup 2 was slower, of course, but the PS4 and the PS4S was marginally different. In fact, the consistency was favoured towards the PS4. The S is at times better, at times worse, but it's a lot harder to get that consistency with the tyre. So that sort of reinforced our choice, really. So that's why we went for the Michelin Pilot Sport 4. It's a good quality tyre. It's a really good value tyre. I think we got the four for this were sub £400 for all of them. So really, really happy with that. And naturally, there's better tyres you can get for that sort of thing, I guess. But for the money, I don't consider the bang for buck a decent enough gap for us to warrant spending the extra money. So that's why we've done it, essentially. We know that the semi-slicks work brilliant in the dry, but they fall off in the wet. We know the Uniroyals work very well in standing water and heavy rain, but they fall off in the dry. So that transition period there was what we needed to conquer, and the PS4 seems to fulfill that very, very well. It works very well in the wet, it works fine in the dry, and it handles that transition period very, very well. that's it in summary, I think. I don't want to ramble on about it, and this isn't a tyre review by any means, because I haven't been able to put them to the test yet, but hopefully at some point we will. We won't be doing that today, because we're on the road. I can give you some feedback about how the tyre feels, I guess, but yeah, listen, maybe we'll when we get to the track, we'll be able to do that in a bit more detail. So yeah, that's it, I think. We'll hop in the car, get her out on the road, and see how we get on. Oh, I miss doing this. God, at least it's not the harnesses. Right, let's move that. There. Power. And like I say, hopefully the noise of the car doesn't ruin the audio too much. Let's get out the fuel station then and see what these tyres and everything like. She hasn't been driven for a while, this one. Oh my God, let's see if I can get to the fuel station. This might be a fun video. Race car abandoned. No fuel. Oh, it certainly feels fine. It does feel peppier, but whether that's placebo effect or not, I don't know. Just I want to get on a flatter road, because I'd like to say at this stage the tram lining's reduced massively, but we'll see. Let's make sure, see if we can get it up the hill without cutting out. Oh, it does feel much better on these tyres, much better. Steering input feels good. It is wet out at the minute, if you can hear that, but it is wet. That's refreshing. Generally does feel quite direct. I do love that short shifter. I do love it. Brand new tyres, of course, so we are being a bit steady until they're scrubbed. Feels good, car feels good. Doesn't hesitate. I did have, before I had that cold feed on it, like I said, I don't know if it's literally placebo effect or not, but it did feel a bit laboured at times, and I wonder if that's because the standard intake pipe work's missing, so it was heat soaking a little bit. It definitely isn't doing that now, and it would hold the revs for a split second before they dropped during gear change, which is not doing it at the minute. Just don't want to go through any standing water, of course, ideally. And the tyres feel fine. They feel absolutely fine. Drives nice, straight and true. No unwanted noises. Yeah, I'd call that a win. Really happy with that. Definite improvement on the tyres before. Definitely better than the Falcons we had on before. It's my first experience with PS4s actually. I'm really quite impressed. But listen, anyway, I think for today's video that'll about do it. So thanks ever so much again if you're watching. Feel free to leave your comments below. We always welcome those. What do you think we did well? What did we not do so well? Did we forget to cover something? What would you like to see going forward? Anything like that. Positive criticism is accepted. If you want to see more, then do subscribe. But yeah, drop a like, and we very much look forward to seeing you in the next one.